Dear Jewel, I left you with a few things to always hold on to. Loyalty, elusiveness, and brute force.
Pokemon Go. You had your phone out earlier, Justin. You were playing it. Everyone, I see people playing this game frequently about, and it's all the rage. What's the deal? Why is it so popular?
And it's crazy how popular it is. I expected this to catch on in a big way. Ingress, the developer's previous game, was another augmented reality game. It has tens of thousands of players all over the world, and it still does. It's still a phenomenon. But not in the way that Pokemon was. And I knew that it would catch on big. Like if Ingress was able to capture that kind of passion, when you put a Pokemon skin, of course it's going to get big. But every day I'm sitting on the train and I see people playing. When people walk by me at a coffee shop, they're talking about catching Pokemon. That's madness to me. Like, I didn't think it would expand that far.
And these people are all 14-year-old children, correct?
That's everybody. Like, Randy is a big player.
I'm 58. I had my 58th birthday yesterday.
Congratulations.
I just went out to lunch and someone had dropped some lures at a Pokestop, and I saw all these people like literally just standing around outside just on their phone doing this. Mm-hmm. And, we sort of like locked eyes and just went, yeah, I know what you're doing.
We know what's up.
Yeah, but I think the reason is, yes, there's a lot of people who love Pokemon, especially, like way back in the 90s when it first came out. But I think the thing that's really sort of helped sort of escalate this is a couple of things. One, it's free. And two, it's not actually much of a game. There's not a huge sort of barrier of entry if you're not like a gamer to actually get into this. Like the most that you really do is swipe up on your screen to try and catch Pokemon, and the rest of it is social. The rest of it is exploring, a real world with Pokemon inserted into it, and trying to catch all the, the 151 I think that are in there, right? It's original. It's just OG Pokemon.
Only the original
right
Pokemon.
Yeah. So the whole social collecting aspect of this is, I think the thing that's really made it pop, and it just helps that it's not that great a game.
Yeah, really. Now, when you say the social collecting aspect, there's two things. There's two distinct things there, I think. One is personal collecting. Like, I want my collection to get bigger. I want to get a specific Pokemon. I, want to build my collection. But then there's the social aspect. How does that manifest for you? Are you coming in and being like, Justin, what's up? It's my Zubat. Or are you comparing this online somehow? How does that work?
Yeah, not with Zubat. So, I mean,
Chris, you have no idea what you're talking about. Zubat sucks.
Zubat. Yeah. So the game does a really, really bad job of actually telling you, how to actually play it and what to do, and B, making you feel like you're part of a greater community outside of gym battles, right? So I guess all of the social aspect of it has been, I come into work, I talk to Justin and go, hey, guess what I caught last night, or how do you do this, that type of thing. So, like within itself, it's not a very well set up social game. I'm yet to dig into sort of like gym battles though, which I think is, where most of that sort of social aspect actually lies.
Yeah, gym battles are, I think, really interesting. I have not had any success because every time I go to a gym, I get this bug where the trainer is unbeatable, which is really annoying. But like, I love the idea of it.
It's a bug Pokemon. It's got like the scarab thing sticking out the head.
Yeah, it's unbeatable. Beatable. He's like shaped like a bee.
This is amazing stuff.
But the gym battles are the thing I think that as they expand it will bring people together around their community, because that's how Ingress was put together. That you had 3 distinct teams. In Pokemon Go, you have 3 distinct teams. Our battle lines in the office are clearly drawn around the teams we've chosen. Right now, we're still friendly, because there isn't that competitive aspect. But I think eventually that is a thing that will divide us as a country, as a nation, as a world.
No, Justin, you obviously know a bit more about Ingress. There was a narrative as well, right? Like with the teams and how you're supposed to try and take over each other's bases and all that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah, you had these areas that were set up around different cities, and depending on which team took it, that would actually affect the narrative. And of course, there's nothing built like that into Pokemon right now. But if they introduce things like that, if they say if Team Red controls most of San Francisco, maybe Team Rocket will come in. Although if there is some kind of narrative aspect. Like that would, I think, help push things along a little bit.
Yeah. But I mean, at this point, what more push does it need? I mean, I guess, we're still in the first week of release. Everyone
it's the honeymoon.
It's totally the honeymoon phase. I mean, you're still seeing people play it regularly. You're discussing it with people. By the way, Justin, what is your team of choice?
I'm Team Valor, which is Team Red.
Team Valor all the way.
All right. Good to know.
I don't even know what the other teams are. Who the other
So
two
there's
teams?
there's the blue team, which is Team Mystic, and the yellow team, which is Team Instinct.
If I'm not mistaken, that was Peter Brown hollering for Team Mystic
I think that was the
somewhere
voice of
from
God.
another realm.
No, it was
Mystic,
Eric from the
indeed.
studio.
Oh, it's
Oh,
Eric.
from the studio.
Sounds like
Okay.
Peter Brown in the microphone.
He sounds like a Team Mystic guy.
This is my
Yeah.
first time.
At least he's not Team Instinct.
Well,
those
so
guys.
we're talking about Ingress, right? And this is Niantic's, is that how you say that? The developers' previous game. Quite successful, but still a cult phenomenon, a small phenomenon by any measure. This, on the other hand, wildly exceeding expectations, I imagine, as we talked about earlier, but at the same time, not being much of a game. So is this a kind of game that people will start having this discussion about? I mean, is this even a game? Do people even still have that discussion, or has it just sort of tapped into like, hey, here's a cool way I can use my pocket computer to go to places and sort of connect with folks?
Yeah, I think in the mobile world, right, I think they have these metrics, right? The people who measure these things, they always like to look at apps, what they do after 70 days, after 30 days, and after 90 days. And then that's when they know if something's going to be a long-term hit or not, right? So I think we're still to come to 7 days, like released in, I think, the North America and Australia and New Zealand, the only official places it's at, right? So we're still yet to come to its first week anniversary. It looks to be holding up pretty well right now.
I mean, right now, daily active users means nothing. It has not been around long enough for that to actually be an important metric.
Yeah.
But the amount of time people are spending into the game is like, I think on average, 43 minutes a day.
And that's your one battery charge basically for a day.
And that's after that it crashes.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens after 30 days. But I think Niantic has already talked about updates, right? So things to try and keep the community in there. And I think the next big one that they're talking about is the ability to actually trade, which is kind of a big thing not to have at launch for a Pokemon title. So I don't think they've actually dated, right, like when they're hoping to do that. But when that does come in, then I think that really amplifies the social aspect we were talking about before, right? Because now I can say to Justin, hey, I've caught this thing, or I've got extras of this, let's trade, what do you have, that type of thing.
And in terms of the regional map, I was talking with you, Justin, earlier, and you were saying that San Francisco is just lousy with Zubats, but that's not necessarily like the case in other regions. Do you see that? As you sort of read about folks' experiences playing, do you see that regional distribution being a sort of a force to fuel this trading? Or
I think the regional aspect could be really fascinating. Like, I don't think they'll have one point in the world because it's such a big game. If you had one point in the world, which is the only place to catch a Pokemon, that would be crazy. But what if they spread out like the legendaries? We don't know anything about how to get our mascot birds for each of our teams. What if those are just spread out throughout the entire world, and you do have to kind of make a pilgrimage to a specific spot and maybe catch them as a group or as a team? Like, that would be a really interesting thing to increase that community while also giving you a really fun thing to do as a group and get together around.
I'm pretty sure Mewtwo just hatches out of a 2-kilometer egg, right?
You have to walk 50 kilometers.
50 kilometers, no, see, I would never do that. So
so no Mewtwo for
no
you.
Mewtwo for me, yeah.
Alas. All right. Well, we've talked about there's it's still the first week. There was a security issue that was addressed on iOS, but there's still bugs. There's still crashes. There's still the servers struggling to handle the massive load of people playing. Do you feel like these are kinks that are going to be worked out, or is this kind of like a warning sign of like, wow, maybe they didn't really know what they were getting into?
Well, it seems like most of the bugs so far you can put down to server load, right? So it has been a crazy week for this game, right? And I think Niantic has gone on the record saying they expected it to be big, but not this huge. So obviously when a company like that it is caught by surprise, then, the servers are going to fall down, all right? I'm still playing and still experiencing a lot of freezing, the occasional like just hard crash straight to my phone desktop. I think that's just server load, and that'll sort of just like even out over time. The Google thing on iOS though, that was a lot more serious, and it's great that they've actually patched that out because they were allowing basically full access to your Google profile. But it seems that, hopefully, I mean, they've already delayed some of the rollout for the rest of the world just to make sure that, there's more stability in the markets that it's currently at.
And just look at World of Warcraft, which is hands down the most popular, the biggest MMO still. Every time they launch, it's a bit of a mess, and it used to be a huge mess, like an unplayable, just throw out there. But you still play it, like it's still fun, it's still amazing, and I get the same thing with Pokemon. As frustrated as I get, as soon as I'll still like, well, I'll try it. I'll pick up the phone, and then there's a Pikachu. I'm like, holy, there's a Pikachu. I'm back in. I found it. I'm gonna keep playing. You got me, Niantic.
And that is the amazing thing about this game, right? That we are we're okay to suffer through all the glitches, right? Like, I've been playing it for a couple of weeks now because we were in the beta, and it was still buggy.
Oh yeah, it was worse in the beta.
It was worse in the beta, right? But I'm sticking with it, right? And imagine any other game company coming out with a huge game like this and having the server issues, the problems that it's having. I mean, it would just be laughed out of the room, right? But because I think it just really sort of points to that affinity that we all have towards Pokemon and the franchise, that we're willing to forgive, all the hiccups the game has had so far.
So do you think it has staying power 90 days from now? You think there's still going to be a bunch of folks at the sandwich shop waiting to battle in line while they wait for their turkey sandwiches?
No. No, but I think it'll have a pretty strong following still. So, a lot of the, more casual people will drop out, I think, within a couple of weeks, right? But there's still going to be that sort of really sort of big core that will stick with this game and try and get it. And, the potential for this game is really exciting. We already talked about, how do you catch legendaries? What happens when trading starts? What happens when they add more Pokemon from,
new generations.
From new generations. And I mean, for a Pokemon fan, there's nothing but sort of upside to this game right now. So it's not going to be as big as it is now, but it's still going to be pretty big, I think.
Pretty exciting. Augmented reality games, Pokemon Go, really making a splash in a big way. I'll be interested to see how it turns out.